So for those that haven't met yet, my name's Tony. I am the public relations and communications coordinator with Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. I'm also a huge Packers fan. That is why what we're about to announce is very exciting for me and the most important person on the screen right now, the co-founder of Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler, joined us today. Thanks so much, man.
Absolutely, Tony. Thanks a lot for having me.
So before we kind of announce what our plan is, spoiler alert, it's going to be focused around Bears Week, which I know for most of Wisconsin is basically as important as most holidays. So I just want to start with you. You're the co-founder of Cheesehead TV. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Cheesehead TV and why you got involved and got it started.
Yeah, I mean, I've been basically, I don't know, full time with Cheesehead TV for the last going on 3 years now. Literally started as a blog and a podcast back in 2007, basically as a way that I could keep in touch with an old friend. My co-founder, Corey Banky, and I met at school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, at North Carolina School of the Arts. We were both obviously diehard Packers fans. And when you move to New York, there's always this idea of, oh, we're going to hang out all the time. But city life doesn't really lend itself to that, especially when you live in different neighborhoods. So one day on the phone, I'll never forget it. Corey said, we should start a podcast. And I was like, what's a podcast? Because it was 2007 and no one was doing podcasts back then. But we really just got together every week and talked about the Packers because it was something we were doing on the phone all the time anyway. So we just thought, hey, let's have fun. Let's record it. And this was before social media, before Twitter, what have you. We did it kind of as a lark. And like I said, just to hang out. And it just kind of took off right before social media started. Social came along. Twitter started in 2008. We climbed onto that right away and really kind of tried to get the message out there. And our whole message and theme from then till now has always been about connecting Packers fans across the world. I mean, it's really easy if you're in Wisconsin to love the Packers and be immersed in the team, everything going on with the team. And obviously it's a little different now. The internet has become a very different animal than it was then. But, this idea that there are die-hard Packers fans literally across the globe. Those are the people we always tried to, bring into the fold, so to speak. Because back then, you printed out maybe an article or two from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's website. And that was it. That was the kind of breadth of coverage, right? So we just wanted to basically add on to what was pretty non-existent at the time. Now, of course, Packers coverage is ubiquitous. You can go anywhere on the internet and find it. But like I said, from then till now, it's always been kind of the same idea behind Cheesehead TV, which is bringing Packers fans together, whether you're in Wisconsin or somewhere across the globe, and just, connecting to the team and connecting to other people who are really passionate about the Green Bay Packers.
Which is awesome, especially for someone like me. Since college, I've lived in Cleveland, Ohio. Now I live in Minneapolis, and I feel like when you walk around the
enemy
store,
lines, yeah, right.
Yeah. So we are recording this less than 48 hours after the Packers and Vikings round one, which obviously went poorly.
Right.
So I haven't left my apartment, but I'm scared to go
Right.
outside. But
Totally
it is cool when you see Packers fans out and about because it's kind of like I see a guy, wearing a hoodie or a hat over at the store. You kind of just give a little head nod, and people know that we're a collective fan base. But
right.
That Packers fanhood is what we are going to really kind of focus on for what we're going to brand as Own Hunger Week, which starts December 6th, runs through the Bears game on December 12th when the Green Bay Packers are hosting the Chicago Bears at Lambeau Field. And we're calling it Own Hunger Week for a pretty specific reason. And Nagler, I will let you kind of take the reins on where Own Hunger came from.
Right. The idea obviously stems from Aaron Rodgers and his bellowing at the Chicago Bears crowd down there in Soldier Field a couple of weeks ago. I still own you.
We're cleaning that up for
I still own you is I think pretty close. It's not a direct quote, but the idea that there is so much passion there, and for a guy who is pretty reserved on the field, I would say more often than not, unless he's maybe yelling at a wide receiver for running the wrong route. But for the most part, he's you don't see that a lot from Aaron. And so when he did that, obviously it took on a bit of a life of its own, swept across definitely the Packers part of the internet. Everybody seemingly was shouting and tweeting and making shirts that said, I still own you in regards to the Chicago Bears. So I think it perfectly encapsulates kind of the last 30 years between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Coming into the early 90s, the Bears were way out ahead in the all-time rivalry as far as wins and losses go. And not only have the Packers have now pulled even, they've pulled ahead, and they're well ahead now thanks to two great quarterbacks. So I do think that was a bit of a culmination of not only Rodgers' time, but Brett's as well. So it seemed perfect, the idea of, working with you guys and owning Hunger, especially in Northeast Wisconsin. Anything we can do to help in that regard, I think, is obviously fantastic. And any way we can incorporate Packers passion, fandom, what have you, obviously we're all on board.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome. Own Hunger Week, December 6th through the 12th, leading up to the Packers playing the Chicago Bears at Lambeau Field. So Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin and at Cheesehead TV, we're going to have a bunch of promotion throughout all your social channels, throughout the different shows and podcasts you do all week long. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I do have a question just to go back. So you said you started your first podcast in 2007.
Right.
Do you know how many listeners you had? Were you even able to track that at that point? I'm just curious.
Not really. We always used to joke because at the same time we started the podcast, I was doing a blog. And that's why we started the website, Cheesehead TV, basically as a place to hold both my writing and the podcast we were doing. At that point, the joke we always had was like 2 people read my blog, my dad and Corey, and that was it. Right. I guess some people must have been reading it because we would get emails because we had a contact portal, on the website, and the podcast really took off. We heard from so many like service members, to the point where one of the first marketing things we ever did was put an ad in Army Times, because we thought, we were hearing from people who were stationed in Iraq or in Germany or even South Korea. Like we were getting emails from all over the world. That's when we were like, wait, so we might have something here, because like I said, back then you couldn't really find much on the internet. And I think the passion is so unquenchable. That's why I think you see such a breadth of, Packers outlets on the internet, because Packers fans can't get enough. And we certainly felt that back then, even though, like you say, there wasn't a great way of tracking whatever metrics you might have now as far as where people are, what their age is, even what they're, into advertising wise. Back then we just kind of gauged it by, this caused a ruckus because we got a lot of emails complaining about something we said about the offense or Brett Favre or what have you. But yeah, we didn't really know. We were just doing it to have fun for the most part.
I'm sure being in New York, doing a Packers blog after the 2007 NFC Championship game had to be pretty interesting for you guys.
Yeah, that was rough. I will say, though, a buddy of mine who was a monster Giants fan, is a monster Giants fan, went to that NFC Championship game in Lambeau, and I'll never forget. He said, as he was celebrating, leaving the bowl, going out into the find his car, he suddenly had this kind of sliver of fear because he knew he had a New York license plate and he had a Giants bumper sticker on the back of his car. And he thought, oh God, I'm going to go and my car is going to be keyed and it's going to be wrecked and someone's going to puncture the tire or whatever. And literally he got back to his car and someone had written in kind of the frost on the back window, "Good luck in the Super Bowl."
Because Wisconsin, you can just write on people's windows in frost. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And it's like Wisconsin, nice, right? And he told me that story, and he was like, "I'll never forget the feeling of like, this is not New York." Because if it was New York and the roles were reversed, you can bet all that stuff would have happened to the car. Because
there have been no tires on that thing.
They're just built different in Wisconsin. So I think that kind of idea, and I think there's a shared history between the teams. Obviously, Lombardi coming from the Giants, etc. It hurt, don't get me wrong, but also that was when my youngest daughter was born. Literally, she was born the week in between the Seahawks game, the snow globe game, and then the loss to the Giants. So that kind of helps put things in perspective when you've got literally a week-old baby kind of resting on your chest, and Tynes kicks the field goal to send him to the Super Bowl, and you're like, okay, well, on to the
fair
next.
enough. Well, Packer fans being the best, that's what we're going to work with during Own Hunger Week starting on December 6th. But I wanted to ask you, so you have a history with nonprofits in themselves and kind of growing up around them and being exposed to the work that we do here at Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin at a pretty young age. Do you want to hit on that for us?
Well, sure. I mean, my mother was the head of a daycare center. It was a nonprofit. It's called Project Bridges in Appleton, Wisconsin. And she was tireless with how, that job really consumed her. And I think it was I was very impressionable at the time, and I think it really kind of put a imprint on me as far as, it wasn't like she was getting a lot of, you know, spotlight or praise, or it wasn't something that was being trumpeted a whole lot, but she was so passionate about it, and she was so kind of earnest, work every day, just whatever issues were coming up, and she could be pulled in a million different ways, and it never phased her. She was a machine. She absolutely just got the job done. Again, for not a lot of notoriety or what have you, but yeah, that definitely left an impression on a very young Erin.
That is awesome to hear. So Own Hunger Week, we're gonna kick it off on Monday, December 6th, and you actually have some current Packers players that join your weekly program. One that's been picked up by a lot of fantasy football players over the past couple of weeks. Running back AJ Dillon.
Yeah, AJ's great. We partnered with him this past off season. We had really kind of wanted to find somebody who was young, up and coming, a guy who, you don't want to pick somebody who might be gone next year as a free agent or what have you. You knew AJ a little bit, reached out to his people, and we thought it was a really good fit. And we really love having him on every week. He is a really interesting guy, amazing interest off the football field. I mean, he's into a lot of cool stuff, but yeah, AJ's great. And we love the fact that, it's a place, it's kind of almost a safe haven where the vibe of the show with AJ is really positive, of so much coverage of not just the Packers, but of NFL football in general, is what went wrong or who's to blame. And with Carry the G, which is the name of the show with AJ, it really is just about, okay, how'd the game go? And then we ask about his life more often than not, and learn about things that he's doing off the field. So that's kind of it's a nice little oasis in the middle of football content 24/7 to just kind of kick it, talk a little football, but really find out more about the guy under the helm.
So Cheesehead TV, I'll do the bragging for you. You went from 2 readers on a blog to, for those listening, for over 100,000 followers across social media platforms. So congrats on this success, and we are super excited to partner up with you for Own Hunger Week. And I hear some rumblings there may be a T-shirt design involved as well.
Absolutely, we'll be having a very special T-shirt to kind of commemorate the partnership and have all the proceeds go to help, a great cause, all the work you guys are doing. We're absolutely thrilled to be involved.
So for all those at Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin who haven't tuned into your work yet, tell them where they can find you real quick.
Cheeseheadtv.com is kind of the hub of everything. You can go to youtube.com/cheeseheadtv, at Aaron Nagler on Twitter, or at cheeseheadtv on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere. Just search Cheesehead TV and you'll find us.
All right. Aaron Nagler of Cheesehead TV, thanks so much for joining us here on News Bites for Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. We look forward to Own Hunger Week, December 6th through the 12th. Thanks so much, man.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me, Tony.